Michaela Vernava for NESN.com, joined by our sports analyst for OddsShark, Jon Campbell. Jon, happy Monday. How are you doing today?
Hey, Michaela, thanks. I'm doing great. Looking forward to a great finals here.
I am too, and after all this madness that we've seen go down over the past few weeks, it boils down to now a 1 seed and a 2 seed in the championship. What was the likelihood that we'd see this matchup between North Carolina and Villanova before the tournament started?
Well, it is a 1 and 2 seed, as you said, and North Carolina was the second favorite pretty much all season coming in. So a lot of people were expecting them to go to the finals. Not so much for Villanova, who was about 18-1 or 20-1 throughout much of the season to win the title here. So I didn't see the odds. I don't have them off top, but I would have put it at something like 20-1, 25-1 to pick this matchup perfectly. And it should be a really good one.
How have the futures odds moved for both Villanova and North Carolina from before the tournament?
Yeah, North Carolina was they opened the season at 5-1, and Kansas was just ahead of them at about 9-2. So they were the favorite pretty much all year. So coming into this thing, there really wasn't a lot of room for wiggle room as they continued to win. So they didn't move too much and are obviously favored by a couple of points, 2.5 points now coming into this one. Villanova is a much more interesting story. Who was about 20-1 coming into the season, and which is really interesting because they have 13 losses over the past 3 seasons, which is the fewest in college basketball. And this team, probably because of their early exits the last couple of years of the NCAA tournament, people just weren't loving them. They weren't on them. And I wrote a story right before the tournament started that this would be a great team to take. You could have gotten them even 8-1 after the first weekend, despite the fact they had a 30-point win and I believe a 19-point win. So they were still getting fantastic value, even as a 2 seed, even after kind of blowing up their first two opponents coming into this thing. And here they are as underdogs again going into the final.
Now, you hit the nail on the head with your predictions last week for the winners of the final 4 games. What did you take away from these games over the weekend, with the final scores being big gaps and these teams pretty much blowing out their opponents, not exactly close games?
No, well, I loved Villanova. I loved them all along, and expected them to win, and really liked North Carolina there too. But nobody could have predicted. I mean, the biggest win in Final Four history, just 44 points, was just an absolute annihilation of Oklahoma. So not sure anyone saw that coming, and Villanova absolutely shot the lights out. But I did think they were the better team. I did see them winning that one. So I'm not shocked they're moving on. And North Carolina, I think the surprise there for some was just how gritty this team can be. And throughout the season, a lot of talk on how talented they are and that sort of thing. But they showed that when it gets tight, because Syracuse did try to claw their way back into that game, and North Carolina just really stepped up kind of with grit and fought their way through it, and for a really convincing win.
Now, for those reasons, how tough is it to call what we'll see tonight?
I think it's really tough. I think this is a fantastic matchup. I think this one has the potential to be one of the best finals we've seen in years. And there are a couple mismatches. I see this line going up. It's been up to 3 at a couple of books, and then I think rightly so bounced back down to 2.5 and 2 again. I think that's too high. The higher it goes, the more I kind of like Villanova there, but 2 great teams, obviously. But there are a couple mismatches here that in the statistics that are going to be, I think, the real deciders here. And one for UNC is that there's a much better offensive rebounding team. They have 75 offensive rebounds in the tournament compared to Villanova having 34. So that's going to be one huge key for Villanova here. They're outmatched in size in the paint, and they're really going to have to box out and make sure that they get those offensive rebounds and don't get eaten up there. And the other one is Villanova's been the hotter shooting team. They've been shooting consistently over 50% throughout the tournament on two-pointers and close to 50% on three-pointers, which is absolutely amazing. So those are kind of the two differences there. And the other thing I think works in Villanova's favor is just the way they play defense. They can switch it up from zone, man-to-man, and they turn steals into points, I think, better than anyone in the country. So those things, each team is going to have to make their strengths work to their favor, and we've got some interesting mismatches that I think is going to make for a fantastic game.
Well, what's your advice for those who are hoping to make a buck on this game tonight?
Well, I like Villanova's chances of winning. I had in my bracket, I had them losing in the final all along, and I have them on futures, but I still like their chances to win. So I would say Villanova money line is not a terrible play, and if you have the ability to bet in-game, you may want to look for a middle opportunity to take the other side and guarantee yourself a profit. But if this line goes up right now, kind of leaning North Carolina's way with a small spread, but if this spread continues to go up and gets up to 3 or higher again, then, I like Villanova with the points. But small spread, I think North Carolina might win in a tiny squeaker here.
Now, because of the parity we've seen throughout this tournament, you've advised for the past couple of weeks that anyone who had won money in the earlier rounds might just want to sit back and enjoy the rest of the tournament as a fan and not risk losing any money. Would that be your advice again this week if you've already made some dough to just maybe sit back and enjoy and don't gamble on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. And even though we saw a couple blowouts in the Final Four, when you looked at the totals, odds makers were almost bang on with the totals. I think it was 149 points scored in the UNC Syracuse game, which was the opening number, and then I think 146 in the other game. And I think it closed at 145.5. So we're talking about a half point away. So even though there have been some blowouts, when you look at the numbers, there have been some real sharp lines here. And there's nothing wrong with sitting back and watching this one as a fan, because I think it will be an awesome game.
Jon, you've done such a great job guiding us throughout this entire tournament. Is there anything else on OddsShark.com, any other bits of advice that you can leave us with before this final game tonight?
Yeah, check out our odds. We've got the line history, and that's always interesting to see where the line movement has gone. I think it's a big indicator in this game. So check that out. And the total's 151. Real tough one. Hot shooting Villanova team. That number has come down a little bit, but I think it's going to be a tough, gritty game. So I'm kind of liking the under there as well. But sit back and enjoy. I think it'll be a good one.
All right, Jon Campbell of OddsShark.com. I definitely want to encourage everyone to head over to OddsShark.com for all their sports betting advice. And, Jon, thanks so much for being with us throughout this entire tournament. It's been awesome.
My pleasure, Michaela. Thanks for having me.